Hello there and welcome to this vlog of May 2023. And today's video is going to be a news roundup of things that have been said over the last week, because we've had quite a few important news drops that I just wanted to kind of round up here, just for like clarity, because it's coming through different channels. So this is kind of the headline stuff that I'll cover today. This is a change from what I was expecting to be doing this week. This is why this video is slightly late. I did think I'd be able to run a bit of a video testing out the pledge manager and giving some, insights on how that works to people who have never used a Kickstarter before. But the pledge manager has been delayed by a few days, so nothing traumatic. They've also told us that 5% of the Kickstarter backers will be getting a sort of beta testing for the pledge manager. So if you are lucky enough to be in that 5%, you'll get an email for it. So that will be, it'd be great for me to get that, but there's a very obviously 5% chance of getting it. So I'm not expecting anything. They may have gone out now already as well. I'm pretty sure they were planning on doing that relatively quickly, with then the intention of the pledge manager dropping next week. I mean, I'd imagine my video next week will be that. So if obviously depends when it comes out, and obviously the time difference as well. But next Friday, maybe next weekend, I'll hopefully be able to do that. Really want to do that as well, because I think a lot of people are confused by the pledge manager, especially if they've never done the Kickstarter before. So it's just like how it all ties together with the stuff that you get from the Kickstarter plus what you can get on retail, and how those two kind of marry up together. I remember when the Clan Invasion Kickstarter came out, that was the first Kickstarter excuse me, that I'd ever backed. So I remember getting that data and being like, what am I doing here? It's when you've looked into it a little bit, it's not too difficult, but it's just you get so much really on a Kickstarter that it's worth just thinking about before you kind of go in. And maybe the pledge manager will be open for quite a while, so maybe go and plan it first. And I'll probably do that. I'll probably show you what box sets I have got planned to get, and then I'll probably just use one of my battalion levels. I'm getting multiple battalion levels and a regiment, but I'll probably use one of them to kind of use that as an example and bring it right through to kind of end process when I click OK. Obviously, I have to test that first to make sure that my credit card details aren't exposed for the world to see or anything like that. But hopefully, I can do something like that, which will perhaps assist you if you're new to Kickstarter, and you can watch that first before you kind of dive in. Anyway, let's get into the news, and this is going to be relatively quickly. This will be a relatively quick video because there's a fair bit here, but it's just the way it's been released. They did a video last week, the guys at Catalyst Game Labs, and things were said that people have kind of obviously hawked in on. But then I've found out other things through other channels and on everywhere where you go for BattleTech news, really. So it's a little bit watery. Things have been said and things have been posted. So I just want to kind of bring it all together and a bit of a roadmap, I think, on what we're getting over the next year. Everything that I'm saying here sits outside of the Kickstarter as well. That's important to say. That is completely separate to anything here. So you won't be able to kind of get anything I'm saying here on the Kickstarter, or at least I'm pretty sure you won't be able to, because this will be happening way after the pledge manager is closed. So let's start out with the big news. And this is something that I remember being on an episode of Jump Point with Aaron and Tom on Death from Above, maybe last year or earlier this year. And we did a little bit of a piece on inner Sphere Omnis. Obviously, if you're relatively new to BattleTech, you will absolutely know what an Omni Mech is. So they are clan mechs. They're really high technology. Things like Mad Cats and Vultures and Thors, or Summoners. Sorry, and yeah, I think I said all of them by their inner Sphere name. So apologies, clan people. Sorry, not sorry. But the inner Sphere, as you would expect, when they kind of get enough salvage through Omni Mechs, they effectively then start to like make their own variants of it within the confines of the inner sphere technology. So they're not as good, but they operate under the same premise. So Omni Mechs, are famous for being like really easy to like strip and change weapons on, things like that. So they're very, very effective, especially if you're playing like campaigns on tabletop. As well, if you kind of look at it from a law perspective, they're just much more easy to manage. They're made in such a way which is like friendly to technicians, whereas like traditional battle mechs are much more difficult to kind of retrofit, and it's again, the clans are just so much better on the technological side. So Omnis are the real kind of like the pinnacle of that technological advancement. The inner sphere, then again, they retrofit variants which are like exclusive to them. So just off the top of my head, you have things like the Hauptmann, which is a Lyran Omni Mech. You have things like the Templar, which is a Federated Suns Omni Mech. There are loads and loads of them. Oh, well, there are dozens of them that I can remember. They're two that just like spring to mind though, because they're very much like both of them are quite powerful mechs actually. Again, not really as good as clan omnis by any stretch, because like when you've got like pulse weaponry, for instance, you're dealing with inner sphere pulse weaponry, which is just simply not as good as clan pulse weaponry, but nevertheless they're still inner sphere omnis, and we're getting these. We don't have any more detail on it as far as I know, but it has been announced that we will be getting some form of force pack or set or something regarding inner sphere omnis. I only found this out like a few days ago, so difficult to kind of ascertain what that's going to look like. If I had to guess, and just looking at how they've done previous force packs over the last like few months, they tend to do box sets between 4 and 6 mechs. I think for this it would be kind of seen as a special pack, so I'd probably say you'd probably get five or six, and I think you will get a lot of the. I mean, I'm pretty sure we'll get like the Hauptmann and the Templar, right? They're probably like two of the most famous. There are other ones though as well. I want to say, is it the Perseus? I think it's called. It's something from Greek mythology. I don't think it's the Pegasus, so it must be the Perseus. That's a Free Worlds League Omni Mech. It's basically just like an Omni Mech Orion variant. You've got like a Centurion Omni variant as well, so that could be an interesting one to look out for. I think that's quite a popular mech as well. And I think, generally speaking, like most inner sphere forces have their own bespoke variants. So, like, and they usually reflect that force as well. Like I'm trying to think. The Capellans have like the Menchen, for instance, which is it looks like a Capellan mech. It's very like bird-like. It's not very good though, unfortunately, is the Menchen, but it is an Omni Mech. Obviously, as well as we're getting the new inner sphere battle armor as well. So I think it is really important they do these variants of inner sphere omnis, because obviously battle armor can travel on Omni Mechs. That's another one of the big boons that they've got. So yeah, that's great. I think it's something that again, me amongst others have been speculating about for some time now, to a point where we actually brought it up on Jump Point. Can't wait for that. I think in terms of time frames, I would guess that that'll be something that's kind of announced autumn winter time, much like they did the mercenary packs across the last cycle. So you got like the Northwind Highlanders pack, things like that. I think this will be the next kind of iteration. That then leads us into the other side of this iteration, which is another really interesting one, and this has been confirmed for some time, but I think there's been some more speculation on it over the last week, and that's that we are getting house force packs. So you get like your Capellan Lance pack. I have been saying they should do this for maybe 2 years now, or coming up to 2 years. I think probably ever since I started this channel. I'm desperate for that. I think it's not for me so much, because I've got a ton of like, as you can see in the background there, that's mostly mechs back there. So, I have like extensive Capellan forces and Free Worlds League forces and Steiner forces. So I don't necessarily need it per se, but I think for new players, especially when you kind of combine it with the new paint set that you get, so you can pick up the new paint set and you can pick up the new, Lyran Commonwealth Force Pack, and you can just paint them blue. And it just, this is where, again, that commercial mindset, everything needs to tie together. You need to look for those like cross-sell opportunities across your products. And that's what they are doing here, and that's great to see. So hopefully that comes out sooner rather than later. Again, I'd say that this will probably come out again in the autumn winter time, something like that. We might get then some like restocks on the paint sets, although I have seen those trickle down into retail now, so that's interesting. So maybe they might even develop that and bring like a second part out of it, which again I think's really good, because a lot of intro players to things like BattleTech maybe don't have like the vast quantities of paint supplies that older gamers have. I mean, I've got like, it's all down here actually, you can't see it, but there is just like, I don't know, maybe 70 different paints down there, so I could just pick up anything across the hobby and paint it. So a lot of people can't do that, so if you give them starter sets, that's, I think, really a good commercial idea. So they're the two like big things really that I think will happen sooner rather than later. Again, I'd probably say over the next 6 months, I think we'll probably start seeing things like that trickle down. Another really interesting one, and this is something that we don't really have much data on, but as we talked about last time, not last time, a couple of weeks ago now, we got some data on the new Target release. So that's the big retail store Target have got the BattleTech Essentials coming out, which is basically just exclusive to Target. So it's a US product really, but it's just to get on the shelves at a major retailer so they can kind of put it into their toy department and people can pick it up. So it's basically just a starter set, much like the beginner sets that we got across the. We've had two now, haven't we? We've had two variants of the basic game, so they kind of strip out all the heat management, things like that. This Solaris pack that we're getting for Target is going to be very similar to that. What they have announced though is that they are planning on doing a quote unquote proper Solaris pack over the next like couple of years. That then I think that's a great idea. Solaris is obviously really popular. I'm sure you all know what Solaris is, but just in case you don't, it's basically like the mech gladiator combat, however you want to say that, on a world that's kind of flips between the Lyran Commonwealth and the Free Worlds League. But it's fun because you can basically just have like, one-on-one or lance-on-lance combats, things like that, and it all gets a little bit interesting in the arena, and like all bets are off, and it's fun. It's just fun. So if this is going to be a supplementary to that, I think that's a great idea. I would say a supplementary. I suppose the starter set is the supplementary to the main pack, or will eventually become that. And that's a great idea. And in that, I'd hope that we'd get some really amazing mechs in there. You could go all manner of crazy for that. Just put in just full of like Franken mechs. They are willing to do that as well. We get a Franken mech in the Snords of Regulars Force Pack, and we're obviously getting specific bespoke gladiatorial Centurion in the new Essentials pack as well. So I think you could get really derpy with that and make a really, really fun like box set. Just make it like an update to a game of Armoured Combat, where you just, rather than the paper mats, which I have an issue with anyway, but they're never going to get rid of them. But rather than doing the grass-sided ones, you do like the Solaris Combat like maps. You can add like extra rules in there as well, and it'd just be a fun time. I mean, I'd absolutely 100% get that. That would be awesome. So look out for that, or news on that as well over the next. I'm guessing that's probably a post Kickstarter one. So yeah, and then finally, and this was an interesting one, something that I was a little bit salty about a couple of years ago when all this dropped, and that's basically. I'll tell you what it is first, then I'll tell you why I was salty about it. They do the line of like exclusive miniatures. So every like few months, Catalyst will drop like a miniature that you basically need to glue together. So you'll get multiple parts. It will get legs, it will get different arms, things like that. They've released like, I don't know, maybe like half a dozen thus far. So you get like the Wolfhound 2C, There's a variant of the Rifleman that just came out as well, although I think there are problems with that because it's too small. I think something went wrong with the mold. But you've got like they bring these out like every so often. The first one that they brought out was the one I actually wanted the most, which was the Black Knight Clanbuster variant. So it's the Black Knight with the big sword, which you can just see it over my head. Like if you look to my, where is it? It's about there. You won't be able to see it there, obviously, but that is a Black Knight from the last Kickstarter that I've glued a sword on because I could not, for love nor money, find this plastic Black Knight. They did do a variant of it in metal, so I think Ironwind did a version of it, but I didn't want the metal one. I wanted the plastic one that I could like give my own pose to. It kind of all worked out all right because I'm really, really happy with how my my own variant of this went, so that's a good thing. But I really wanted one of them, and they sold out really quickly. I saw one on eBay for like $50 or something. I don't think even I'm willing to spend $50 on one mech. Actually, that's probably a lie. But I never got it, is the point. So now they are re-releasing it, and I think a lot of people will be in my boat as well, where they didn't get an opportunity to get it, probably because they didn't know the demand when they brought the first one out. What I have seen is that if you go onto the Catalyst website, they still have quite a few in stock for like the I think there's like the Timberwolf TC variant, which is another. I think that's the specific variant that the clans used at the Battle of Tukied. But regardless, the Black Knight Clanbuster variant will soon be stocked again, so that's great to see. There may have been some issues with that as well because I think they changed. I should have researched this before I started speaking about it, but was it with like Monster Fight Club and now a different, or are they doing it now but then a different company did it first? I can't remember the kind of setup for it, so presume it's going to be the new company. That might be Monster Fight Club or someone else, I'm not 100% sure, but ultimately I'm pretty sure it'll be the same, if not the identical model, because I'm presuming they've still got the molds for it that they can use. Yeah, so that's good, and I like the little exclusive mechs that come out. I know some people get quite upset about that because they're quite expensive. They're usually about $15. Remember though, you do get quite a lot of parts with it, and you can make it as you want. So you can have it like running or standing stationary or looking up at the sky or doing whatever you want with it, which is something that's much more difficult to do on the Monopose like assembled figures that come out in the box sets. That's not to say you can't proxy the official box sets. You can, and I have. You just need to be creative. I mean, ultimately, they only are just glued together, so you can kind of take arms off it. I mean, be careful if you've never done that before, because you may end up ruining the mech, and you do need to kind of know how to work with proxy. So you need things like a little bit of basic knowledge on how to use things like green stuff. Is it green stuff? I think that's what it's called. I've not used it in ages, but it's basically like this material that you can get that you can kind of mold to like fill in gaps, and if you're really good with it, you can kind of actually make things with it. But I'm not that good. It's just like a poly filler for me. But yeah, so you can do that. But with the exclusive miniatures, you can just get much more dynamic poses and much easier because you get to glue it together. Anyway, that's all today. So yeah, coming up to 19 minutes. So that's a short one for me. I think anything under 20 minutes I consider a very short one. I will be back next week, hopefully, with that video on the Kickstarter Pledge Manager. So, keep an eye out for that, especially if you're new to the Kickstarter. It's probably a good idea if you watch that first and then you go away and plan your own thoughts before you just delve into it. Or you might find you just get lots of stuff that you don't want, or you might end up buying a lot more things at retail that you're actually, you are allowed to get through the Kickstarter, but maybe you didn't know. Anyway, we'll deal with that next week when it comes up. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you again next time.